Hello friends, welcome to my channel TJ the Tax Accountant. It's a space where we discuss the intricacies of tax accounting and some related best practices which can make you a better person at your job and in your professional field. So before we move on to our presentation of the day, please remember to subscribe and follow my channel. That ways I know that I'm posting relevant content, and it will also help you in keeping track of all the videos that I'm loading on my channel. So moving on to our today's topic, which is in continuation of my previous video regarding the best practices for creating Excel workbooks. So today we are gonna take a deeper dive into how to really achieve some of the best practices in creating your workbook in MS Excel, and how can they help you in doing your jobs easily and far more quickly. So just to recap some of the pain points that we discussed in my previous video, some of the common issues that we face in the field of tax accounting are that our data source are redundant in providing a data in a very specific format. The other issue is that we use the same reports over and over again because most of the ERP systems that we work on give you a standard report. The challenge that it poses is the formatting the data source into something that we can actually use in our workbooks. We have to constantly update the calculation logics in our workbooks based on any of the updates in tax laws or any new accounting guidance which gets issued quite frequently, to be honest. And the last point is the lack of ability to automate. So the way sometimes the reports or the raw data that we receive unfortunately does not come out in a format which is friendly for automation. So we have to tweak it in several ways in order to achieve any kind of automation in our workspace. Then moving on to what will a perfect world would look like. We would love to have a consistent source of data. The recurring reporting will again carry on. It's something we have to do over and over again. We can control the consistency in the format in which we receive the data. We can in our automation, we can create a certain amount of flexibility which allows us to update the calculation logic based on any law change. And then finally, all of our formats should be friendly for creating automation in our workflow. So now getting to the main point for today, I wanted to go over certain practical solutions which we can use to create an automation friendly Excel workbook. So the key ingredients are like whenever you receive a data and then you're trying to format it in your required form, I would personally strongly suggest rather, that you always create your source data in a table format. You use the consistent headers in that table for that data, and then you should use structural formulas instead of the regular VLOOKUPs or any other lookup function that you may be using, like XLOOKUP or anything of that kind. And the reason I say that is when you're using VLOOKUP or index match for that matter, whenever your source data expands or contracts in size, you have to be very careful while you are updating your data that you make the necessary changes beforehand so that your output workbook where you are using the VLOOKUPs, they get updated. Otherwise, when you paste in the new data in your Excel file and it's not in the same number of rows or in the same number of columns, then your VLOOKUP may not look into the entire source tab that you're trying to get the information from. However, if you format your data in a table format and use structural formulas, you don't have to worry about it, because when you format something in a table, it defines the source, and then every time you paste in the new data in the same format, the table will expand and contract on its own, and the structural formula will automatically adjust. It actually does not even need any kind of adjustment, because it traces the source by the name of the table and the name of the headers. So we'll talk about it in detail in this video. So what is a good design would look like, or what is an example of a good design? So most of you must be receiving your source data in roughly this format. I've taken an example from a trial balance that you might download from an ERP system like SAP or Oracle or any other ERP system that your company is using. And then your actual data out of ERP system might look even worse than what I'm showing here in my sample table. But from a basic structure standpoint, you would have a column that would give you the account number. You will have a column that gives you the description of the account number, and then you would see the amount. And generally, in my experience, I've seen that trial balance always comes out in the absolute numbers for which. And what I mean by that is that if the number is positive, it means a debit balance, and if it's negative, it's a credit balance, irrespective of whether the account is an asset account or a liability account. I hope you all agree to that. And if you are seeing a trial balance which throws out the number in any different style, then please do tell me about it in the comment section. So now this is the how a bad data might look like, and this is how we should try to format it. So what I have done here is I've just reformatted my source table in a table format, and I've done that by using this format as table option in your home screen on Excel. And I've named my table as TB_1. So what that does is all the headers that you're seeing in this table, which say account, description, amount, and account classification, they get automatically picked up as identifiers for your structural formulas. And TB_1, which is the table name, defines the entire range of your table. So all the column 1, 2, 3, and right down to the last row is always covered if you are referencing it as TB_1 in your structural formula. So now you have heard me talk about structural formulas a number of times in my video so far. So we'll just dive right into it and see what does that look like. So this is the table that we need to work off from. And I just, in the last column which says account classification, I have just converted my source data into a table format and then added an extra column wherein I'm calling each account in as a certain classification. So I'm calling cash as my current asset, fixed assets as fixed asset, direct expense I'm calling it as wages, indirect expense I'm saying selling expense, current liabilities as account payable, and common stock as capital. So what I'm trying to show here is that your trial balance may have XYZ as a description, but for your provision or your tax return work, you might need a very specific description. So when you create a table, you can convert the original description as per trial balance into something that you need. So this is a very, very, very basic example. I am aware of the fact that the actual data looks much more complicated, and it's not just limited to 6 rows and 3 columns. So we will talk about converting all of our descriptions into the desired description in an automated way in my next video, where I'll talk about some Power Queries that we can build into Excel. But for the meanwhile, just to put my point across regarding to formatting your workbook, I wanted to show you how the structural formula work. So if I want to achieve an output where I can just add up all the assets, add up all the expense, and then add up all the payables in 3 different rows. So instead of telling Excel to look up into my table and then do all kind of lookups and everything, I can simply type a simple sum if formula. So over here you can see for total assets I'm using a formula sum ifs. So TB underscore 1 an amount. That means that I'm trying to add up the amount column in my table, which is TB underscore 1, and that consists of these 4 columns and 6 rows or 7 rows. And then after I define the column for addition, I'm defining the classification that I need to add up. So I want to add all the assets, whether they are current asset or fixed assets, into one line. So I have I'm saying in my formula that do a sum in the amount column and then look in the account classification column, and then anything that says asset in the name, then give me a sum of all those numbers. So as in this table you can see 100,000 is for cash, 200,000 is for fixed assets, and I'm getting a total of 300,000. So what this will do, if you have a longer trial balance, or if next year a new account is added between cash and fixed assets, let's say accounts receivable, so you would code it as current asset under your account classification, but then when you will look at your total assets row, it will automatically include whatever the amount is in your accounts receivable line. And then similarly I'm using total expense, wherein I'm telling it to look for the word expense in account classification column and then give me a sum from the amount column. And then similarly I'm doing a simple sum for payables to look for the word payable in a classification column and then add up all the rows that say payable in it. So you can see all my totals are getting added up there. So, and then you would see that my asset, expense, and payable are in quotes, and then they are followed and in asterisk. So what that does is it tells the sum if formula to look for anything which is spelled as asset, and anything that if the word asset in the column is if the word asset is followed by something else like current asset, it will look for that as well. And then the asterisk in the end means that any word which is after the asset in the classification column, that will also get included here. So if I had said current assets, say current assets cash in my classification column, it will still get included. So it will look for the word asset anywhere in the entire string in the account classification column and do the totals. And the same thing goes for expense and payable. And then you can control your formula if you don't want to add up all the asset, or if you want to do the total of just the current asset. So instead of writing asset in quotes and stars, you can take out both the asterisk sign and just write current asset in quotes, and that way anything which says exact word current asset will get included in your total and nothing else will flow into it. So that's how you can control your formula and how you are trying to design your workbook. And I particularly find this technique very useful, and it's very robust, and year over year or period over period, whenever you are updating your source data, it does not really affect your output tab, because it still gets picked up because everything is in a table, and you don't really have to worry about like updating your VLOOKUP or index match formulas in your workbook. So I hope you find this useful, and I will definitely follow up with some other videos wherein I will show you how we can use queries to automate some of the the best practice format that we can get out of our source data without having to manually create a table and then add all these classification codes in it. And then once again, if you like the video or if you find it useful, then please subscribe to my channel. It tells me that I'm doing something right, and also I don't mind getting more and more subscribers to my channel. Thank you. And then do leave comments and questions if you have any in the comment section below. Thanks again. Bye.